The other thing I would say is that I think that there are really some great opportunities here if we do get government behind this, because we have such a great resource. This is one of the other things we don't realize here in Alberta is we have world-class solar resources. I mean, the world's leading solar jurisdiction is Germany because they've got really good incentives for it, and we've got far, far better solar resource. Over the course of a year, we get as much sun in southern Alberta almost as you get in Rio de Janeiro. I mean, we don't think of ourselves as, Copacabana Beach here,
right.
but we do in fact get that much sun over the course of a year.
I want to talk a little bit about subsidies. When we come back, we're going to jump to a quick break, folks. Hearing from the Ramp Pack, stay with us.
I'm not convinced about solar energy, to be perfectly honest with you. I feel like if it was feasible, more people would be doing it. If there was something to that, I think it's science that can be developed, but we shouldn't go green just for the sake of going green and saying we have solar energy if it's not actually useful or if it's way too expensive.
I think that the Alberta government needs to get on this solar energy thing and generally green technology in general. We have a lot of money now, and if we were to put grants and subsidies towards these startup companies for cleaner energy, Alberta would be building itself a future instead of just waiting until the oil runs out. And then what do we have? Nothing. We got a giant province with a big hole up north. So I think the money needs to be spent wisely on certain things.
So I'm going to let you finish, if you would, Chris, about the subsidies. It's a common theme. There's just not enough, I guess, provided in the way of subsidies to kind of get people more on board. Is that about right?
Well, it's some sort of incentive anyway, and Dave might be able to speak better as to what would work best in Alberta's energy environment. But certainly, you look where solar has really made some big strides. There's been some sort of incentive, whether it's a direct subsidy, some sort of pricing mechanism that just helps create the market and guarantee the market. You do need to give some sort of incentive to get in there, because so much of the cost is up front. And one of the other things that I think we need to acknowledge is that when you're adding solar energy, to your grid, to your energy market, it is creating benefits. It is reducing the overall amount of carbon dioxide that's being produced in that jurisdiction. Yeah. It can actually solve some problems that no other that non-renewable energy sources anyway can't, and that there should be a reward for that. And if you look at the leading jurisdictions, that was what they recognized was we could go and penalize the big polluters, and there's a certain amount of traction to be made that way. But maybe what we should really be doing is rewarding the people who are willing to help us get to a cleaner energy future.
Would you agree with that, Dave? Does that sound about right?
Yeah, no, I think so. Yeah, for solar, there's a lot of other intrinsic values, other than obviously the energy it's producing, but the environmental benefits. I mean, I believe it's the Alberta Medical Association has come out saying that coal costs us roughly $300 million a year. And that cost isn't attributed anywhere within our cost of electricity. Mm-hmm. So if we start applying those costs to our health, to our environment, to our energy, then solar looks very strong. Yeah.
So for an average homeowner then that's thinking of converting to solar, given the opportunity, what else is required besides the panels? I mean, is there anything unique to the structure that needs to be in place, or is it universal?
The grid-tied solar electric systems we're installing today are actually very simple. There's two main components: the solar modules on the roof that have 25-year power output warranties, and then the inverter, which converts that DC electricity to your AC household power. Those inverters have either a 5, 10, or 25-year product warranty. Those are the only two main components, and we're just backfeeding your electrical panel with that energy. So no batteries. Systems are really durable, very little to no maintenance. So it's pretty easy to put solar on virtually any house today.
Have you had any problems with your solar powered home?
No, not at all. In fact, actually, they were built in 2007, and the furnace is not like a typical furnace. It's almost like a big radiator. So basically hot air or water goes through it, and then air blows on the water pipes, and then it blows throughout the air or throughout the house. Right. But we actually had a service on it the other day, and we have a lifetime warranty on our furnace. And we haven't had any issues. I don't think the homeowners previous to us have ever had any issues. I know their next door neighbor has lived there since 2007, since everything opened, and he's never had any issues either.
So what about, is there any maintenance? Do you have to get up there and clear off the panels?
No, usually for the most part is that if it's sunny at all, the panels heat up enough that the snow comes off. There was one day when it was really cold. It was probably -20, and I think there was snow on the panels, but they're almost at an awkward stage of the house. Like on the back, they're all, for the most part, there's 800 panels on the garages.
Okay.
And there's 2 solar panels on our house. which heat up the hot water tanks.
Yeah.
And if that doesn't work, then we have gas. We also have gas.
So, right, you're still,
water.
of course, you're still on the grid to a degree.
Yeah,
right.
is it? So if something doesn't work, there's backups upon backups upon other backups.
Yeah, a lot of contingency,
yes,
which is smart.
Just in case, is that in the long run, it does eventually run on gas if it's like minus 40 for a couple of weeks, or there's like an unusual cold snap or anything like that.
Yeah. Is it feasible to live completely off the grid in Alberta?
You certainly can. It's not. There's really no point to it though if you have the grid there. The grid is really reliable. It can allow you to avoid the use of batteries and a more complex battery-based system. The grid-tied systems we install are very durable, very reliable, and you avoid that large battery investment and then obviously the reinvestment when they need replacing. So using the existing grid and tying it in there makes the most sense.
Yeah, definitely. When you were during the election, you spoke to hordes of people.
I did, yeah.
Was that a topic that came up, the potential to live off the grid?
I don't think living off the grid so much was the topic. Certainly, the reliability and the sustainability of our energy future is something that I think not just in Alberta, I think around the world is something people are talking about. And I think maybe it's actually closer to the top of the list of topics here in Alberta because obviously non-renewable energy resources are so central to our economy, to the kind of jobs that a lot of people do and that sort of thing. But I certainly didn't find that Albertans were any less open to having this conversation than anyone else. I mean, I think we sometimes think that there is more of an us versus them sort of thing when you're talking about renewable versus non-renewable energy. Really what we're talking about is, pretty long-term transition from one to the other. And jurisdictions that get in sooner, I think we'll see better opportunities to become leaders in those new technologies. It wouldn't make sense to do it necessarily if you're somewhere where it makes no kind of practical sense. But we actually do live in a jurisdiction that has really good renewable resources, including solar energy. So I think when you talk to people on that front, not we need to do this because oil and gas and coal are wrong, so much as we need to do this because we need to be getting to a low carbon future. There are great job opportunities and entrepreneurship opportunities, things like Skyfire Energy, which are creating jobs and creating economic opportunity in the province. That's where we need to take the conversation and get past the us versus them mentality.
Did you find a lot of people are on board with that? Economic opportunity?
Yeah,
and excited about it.
That and economic diversity, and I think there's a recognition, much as the oil and gas industry is hugely important to Alberta's economy right now. There's also a lot of uncertainty around it. I mean, you put solar panels on your roof, they're going to produce electricity for another 20 years, 25 years, if not more, at a known cost. Whereas we don't know where we're going to be in 20 years, in 10 years, in terms of oil and gas and the cost of it and the availability of it. So I think that there's a recognition at some point that here in Alberta we need to be moving away. I think there's been a recognition for a long time actually that we need to be moving away from reliance on this very, very unstable market that is the fossil fuel economy.
I see you nodding your head. I imagine that was a big part of your motivation.
Well, also too is it because you just said like everything's unstable. We have no idea what's under the ground 10 years from now. Like who knows what's going to happen. Unfortunately, is that because I work in the oil and gas industry, I see how much damage is done, and that was another factor as to why I wanted to do something about it. I can't stop it. Nobody can really stop it because I don't have the means nor the money.
Well, you're putting in your effort, and they
can
appreciate
that's
that.
The whole thing. Is it like our house on its own reduces, I think it's 5 tons of greenhouse gases just with our house. So every house in Drake Landing.
How many homes are in the community?
52.
So that's a significant amount of carbon reduction.
And I think they said that just a regular house, releases 6 to 7 tons of greenhouse gas. So we're depleting it by 5 tons a house.
Incredible. Your customers, for the most part, is their motivation financial or is it the environment?
It used to be primarily environment. Today we have a lot of customers, both residential and commercial, where they're looking at they can take a little bit of a longer outlook on their electricity. I mean, solar electric systems, you're not going to see a 5 or 10 year payback, but it is in a lot of cases today your cheapest source of electricity if you can take that 20, 25 year outlook. So the economics work great. We're working with developers and condo builders who are
Condos makes a lot of sense. The average homeowner might be tough. I get the, if you're developing a whole community, I get it. You don't do a whole lot of single detached homes conversions, do you?
Yeah, we do both.
Right?
Most of our work is new construction on the residential side. There's a number of home builders who are really leading the way there, and I mean, you can buy solar in show homes now right next to your granite countertops, so it's readily available.